The World Cup is in its late stages. Some big hitters have gone home, some underdogs have hung in, and it's all just been so exciting. But who have been the best teams so far? The only way to know for sure is to rank them. In order, all of the last 16. And here they are. 16. Argentina Once. After a day in the pub with a good friend, I went to an Indian restaurant so that he could try the best curry that I'd ever had. I told him all about how this particular curry was, honestly, just the greatest I'd ever eaten, and I really like Indian food, so we both ordered it, drank some more wine and waited for a plate of deliciousness. Some time later, the waiter arrived with and handed me my plate. Starving and truly excited, I reached over. It was warm, oh it's hot, and I don't have a proper grasp. In slow motion, the thing fell to the table from a height with a loud clunk, knocking the wine over and pouring the curry all over me, the floor, and what felt like the entire building. A smashing sound in a restaurant or bar is usually followed by a sarcastic cheer. But here, only silence. I sat there, this god-awful mess spilled everywhere, all over every bit of clothing I was wearing. Humiliated, defeated. It was sort of my fault. Mostly there was nothing I could do about it. My friend sat opposite laughing his head off. Others looked over, genuinely sad. The food I'd had such high hopes for lay on the ground like the debris of a disappointing explosion. My night ruined. That's Argentina. 15. Denmark. Kasper Schmeichel is good, isn't he? His penalty save to deny Luka Modric a late winner in their last 16 knockout was the highlight of a fairly dull game, if you exclude the excitement of the shootout of course. And when you think about Denmark right now, can you remember anything except Schmeichel? Christian Eriksen wasn't at his best. And just try and name their left back. The right back. They're probably half-decent players, but you can't do it, can you? 14. Japan. A real surprise package. Lucky to have the advantage of an extra player against Colombia for the entire game, but played well in the draw with Senegal. Couldn't do enough against Poland, but it didn't matter in the end. The performance against Belgium was superb for about 65 minutes, but Roberto Martinez's side woke up and blew them away. Don't let the final score in that one detract from how they played. Some of the football Japan produced was fantastic. Technically gifted players, quick passing and a lot of work off the ball. 13. Switzerland looked impressive in the 1-1 draw with Brazil, more than holding their own and forcing tight to settle for a point, then beat a rather physical Serbia. Costa Rica got a draw. Defended well, denied Brazil any real chances to score, but were really shown up against Sweden, unable to create chances any other way than just hooking the ball in from wide and trying to header it. It didn't work. Xherdan Shaqiri couldn't work his magic, and Switzerland were about as entertaining you could ever imagine Switzerland being. Medium. 12. Mexico collapsed under the pressure of their must-not-lose game against Sweden and lost 3-0, and were then taken apart slowly by Brazil, where they had to deal with Neymar's playground antics. During that game, all the fun of the opening match hiding inflicted on Germany slowly faded away. They played a 700-year-old man at centre-back. Irving Lozano showed why he's probably quite good in the Eredivisie but unlikely to star in the big leagues, and were deservedly beaten. A real shame. Excellent hats. They run, they defend, their striker looks like he could crush your head with his hands. Russia are riding the wave of home support and the tournament is better for it. But they're not very good. Yes, they beat Spain, but that does not mean they're better than them. It wasn't so much like watching David beat Goliath as it was being made to observe David informing Goliath that new Goliath restrictions mean he cannot leave his cave, and while he's pondering that, David constructs a wall and blocks him in. Then he goes around telling everyone in the village that he won the battle and is the best, while Goliath's just sitting there going, well, I suppose technically. I suppose he did in a way. 10. Portugal. If it hadn't been Uruguay, you get the impression Portugal would still be in the tournament. They looked organized, Cristiano Ronaldo was doing all of the goals, and they showed variety in their approach to games. unexpectedly pressed Spain instead of sitting back, had to manage a tricky Morocco and then incredibly tough Iran game but just couldn't get the job done against Uruguay. When two teams both enjoy skullduggery, sitting deep in a low block and scoring goals from crosses, whoever has the better overall standard of player is going to end up winning. That's what happened. Forget the nonsense of that England defeat, when Colombia weren't throwing themselves to the floor, headbutting opponents on the sly, scuffing up the penalty spot and moaning about everything. They were really good on the ball. In fact, when the game became less about emotion and more about positional play, movement and passing, they looked the better side. Didn't deserve to go through after all the antics and could probably have won that game if they'd tried to play with the ball for longer periods. 8. Spain really disappointing. Defeated on penalties by an inferior Russia who had spent the previous 120 minutes defending their own box. These things happen in football and supposedly superior teams have to be able to solve those dilemmas. Fernando Hierro couldn't do it from the sidelines, the handball Gerard Piqué committed was silly and made things even more difficult, and then Igor Akinfeev became super golly. Spain's passing wasn't quick enough, they didn't press with enough energy, and sadly, it is clear that the era of Spanish dominance is definitely over. 7. Sweden incredibly well drilled, a team who sits deep and has a clear plan of how to get out of tricky situations and manage difficult games. Sweden don't have any real standout players but are a really talented unit. Emil Forsberg has been the man who dribbles out of defense and wins a free kick at halfway. Sebastian Larsson can hit a free kick but the strikers basically act as scarecrows, and are about as good at shooting. Defending is done as a unit, they don't concede any chances to score, and the more you look at it, the more it becomes apparent that they are a European version of Burnley. Much patience is needed by England. 6. England flew through the group stages, hit a bump in the road against Belgium and showed unbelievable character and mental strength to navigate the perilous waters of Colombia and win a penalty shootout on whatever multi-transport journey this sentence has taken them on. Gareth Southgate's team work hard off the ball, attack with pace, have Harry Kane being wrestled to the floor every time they get a corner, and now have a bit of belief. They still look a little shaky in defense, and when things get nervous and you're under pressure, that's the one bit a team really needs to be able to rely on. 5. Uruguay aggressive, desperate to win, and with two top-class strikers constantly on the hunt for goals, Uruguay are a fearsome opponent to whoever takes them on. Next up is France, who won't enjoy the physical battle they're about to get. VAR means some of the shenanigans certain players like to pull won't definitely work, but if we concentrate on the football side of things, Uruguay are essentially an international version of Atletico Madrid. Rigid, structured, hard to beat, and capable of scoring when they need to. You know when the exam is months away, now to plan your future. What a time you could have once all this is done. A gap year? Or straight into work? You go to the classes, do most of the homework, and really, you know your stuff. And also, you're pretty sure you know what the questions are going to be, so you learn those sections particularly well. You watch the movie rather than the book though, it's better that way. Takes less time. People are all panicking on social media, silly people. Got it covered. Exam day comes, you stroll confidently into the hall and sit at your desk thinking about what you could do after. Once you've nailed this test and it's out the way, a few of your pals will probably go to the pub, so that's probably the best idea. A party sounds good. A night out will be fun. But then again, it's nice outside, so maybe the park. You open the exam paper. Why did you spend so long on YouTube? Did you ever genuinely enjoy all those seasons of Netflix-made TV? Or was it because they reminded you of things you actually did like? Why did you watch so many? Where did the time go? Why do you sort of know what this exam question is about but not the answer? This isn't how it's meant to be. You thought you'd prepared. There was a plan. You're smart, gifted, but what the hell is this? And then Nasser Chadli scores a fourth minute of injury time winner. That's Belgium. 3. France. Didier Deschamps is very cautious. France's players aren't. This French side could be aggressive and destroy opponents but are instead learning table manners to ensure nothing embarrassing happens instead, like a house-trained dragon. Don't set the guests on fire. Francois. A team who scores 4 against Opel Argentina but also lets in 3 is a confusing one, but when you have the likes of Kylian Mbappé tearing defenses apart, Antoine Griezmann capable of magic and maybe, one day the brilliant Paul Pogba instead of the annoying one, on their day France can beat anyone. N'Golo Kanté has been incredible so far. 2. Croatia. Luka Modric has been the player of the tournament and on current form is easily the best midfielder in the world. He and Ivan Rakitic have their part of the pitch nailed down, the goalkeeper is brilliant, the defense looks reliable and they're playing with confidence. Perhaps don't create as many chances as they might need to win the tournament without penalty shootouts but are a quality side and should beat Russia. 1. Brazil. Simply the best, not the song. Their defense is solid, have conceded 1 goal so far in the tournament, the midfield is well balanced, and the forward are fast, skillful and driven. You might even say they're better than all the rest. Better than anyone? Well, Neymar hasn't found his stride yet, mostly because he's been kicked off it, but Philippe Coutinho has and it's pretty darn good. Brazil have flair, creativity and speed but take a pragmatic, careful approach to games. Unquestionably the team to beat.